Today's Dirty Air segment is brought to you by Tire Pros. We love our cars and love to work on them, but these are the pros. If you need an oil change or an engine repair, it doesn't matter what it is. They're not just tires. Visit your local Tire Pros today. All right, so let's get right into this episode of Dirty Air, episode 546. We're going to talk about Gateway, but I want to talk about something that annoys the out of me. And Andrew is...
Like how guilty you look.
Yeah, unfortunately...
I know where this is going.
Unfortunately, this is just... Andrew just seems to be in the crosshairs. This is this is an unlucky situation for Andrew because it's not really pointed at specifically him. It's anybody. And I know I can see Andrew and I can see Dalton. Tampa Tim's back there in the booth. If he wants to chime in, I feel like Tampa Tim's would agree with this. You're in a text conversation, right? You're texting somebody. You're talking back and forth. They're responding. They're asking questions, whatever, right? And then you're like, you know what? This is getting. It's just easier for me to call. Let me just call. I have some specific information that I'd like to give, and I don't want it to get misunderstood in a text. And you call them immediately, and they don't answer. What in the hell is that?
That is annoying.
What is that? And then you know what?
That's messed up.
You know what's even more annoying is they'll call you back like 45, like a minute later, 45 seconds later, they call you back. And it's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, we're just sitting there talking. Literally, you had your phone in your hand, and I called you. You don't answer. And then 45 seconds, what is that?
I needed time to flush and wash my hands.
What? Were you on the toilet when we were texting?
Yeah, I don't want to answer the phone, be like, you hear like bathroom sounds in the background.
Is that actually what happened?
That was that instance, yeah.
All right,
That's
well,
what mute's for.
that's interesting. I guess there are some people that you might answer the phone if you were sitting on the toilet. I don't fall into that threshold, which is fine.
I don't like that.
All right.
Yeah.
So that you're waited till this moment to tell me that you were actually sitting on the toilet when this all happened.
I don't know. I was kind of panicked when I saw you call, and then I called back later, like I just wasn't ready
Did it
for
scare
it.
the out of you?
Yeah, it scared the out of me.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just I don't know, because I walk into bathrooms sometimes and you hear people like they're talking on the phone. I just think that's a weird place. Like it makes me want to flush extra just so that people on the other line know that they're talking to someone that's in the bathroom.
That's weird.
You
just to throw the other people under the bus.
He's in there.
I guess.
Andrew's in there flushing extra. He's like,
he's got every stall.
Andrew's sending like SOS signals with his flushes.
Morse code.
Morse code. If you're in the bathroom and you hear multiple flushes, you know it's Andrew.
If you're in the bathroom and you hear SOS and Morse code via the flushes, you really got a problem.
Call help for Andrew.
Yeah, call help right away.
There's no real. This other thing that I wanted to get off my chest. I'm on a.
Does that make you feel better? Did that explanation? Did that justify it?
That makes sense. But you did when you called me back, and I was like, "What in the hell? I just called. You should have said, hey, I was in the toilet."
I don't know. I was embarrassed.
Just send the poop emoji.
Yeah.
Or the toilet.
Now every time,
toilet emoji.
Yeah, you don't
every
have to.
time I feel like I don't answer a Dale phone call and just miss it, even if I'm not in the bathroom now, that's going to be the assumption.
I think
from this
honestly
this time moving forward.
No. I think that every text that you send from the toilet should have two toilets, one on each end of the text. So you know. Like, this is a text while I'm on the... This is a text. Yeah, this is a text while I'm on the toilet, so you know not to call.
We'll start doing that.
Instead of in parentheses, it'll be in between two toilets. This is another thing that I just have to say. All right, I've been holding on to this one. And I talk about how this show's often... therapy, and people ask me, oh man, you're doing the podcast, we like it, and I'm like, yep, I enjoy it, and they're like, why do you like it? And I'm like, well, it's kind of like therapy. So y'all don't have to. I don't need any help. You can you can
safe space.
No, yeah, you can respond, but I'm not asking for a resolution here or anything like that. But I just gotta get this off my chest. So I have this little bouncy house It's $400. I bought it 5 years ago. It's one of the best things that we bought for the summer for our girls. It's relatively small footprint. Plug it in, turn on the button, it blows itself up, and it's there, but it is really hard to put away because you got to wait for the air to leave. It's got this little water feature where it sprays water down the slide, and you got to get the water out of this thing before you can put it away so it doesn't mildew and all that stuff. It's just a real pain in the butt. But just pulling it back out so I plug this thing in, blow it up, kids play on it, they're done. I fold it up and slide it off to the side to get it off of the grass so it don't kill the grass, and then it's laying there until they want to do it again. And I'm telling you, man, they'll walk out there and see that thing. Dad, can you blow up the bouncy slide? I'm like, yeah. All right. I go to work, 10 minutes later, this thing's blowing itself up, and they don't even mess with it. It blows itself up, and they're off already doing something else. And I'm like, hey, bouncy slide. I put all this work in for 10 minutes getting this bouncy slide up, and nothing. Or they go over there and jump on it for about 5 minutes and then get distracted and they're gone. I'm like, hey, y'all done with the bouncy slide? Yep, we're done. He played with it for less time than it took me to get it up. And, you can't leave it up all day. It's hot and it's sunny and you'll kill the grass if it lays on that grass in the heat all day. So, golly, I just had to get that off my chest. I don't really need any help or anything, or don't need a solution. It's just sometimes you got things bottled up. You got to get it out, And,
we're here for you.
Yeah. TJ has joined me down here, as you might have, if you watched Door Bumper Clear this week, you'll see that he recorded from this remote studio as well. So he's down here. A lot of fun. He's getting a lot of rest, getting a lot of sleep. Haven't really seen much of TJ. We did get to listen for the majority of the afternoon about how his Tesla broke. So we've spent a lot of time talking Tesla, and
that's electric.
Looking at the closed door to his bedroom while he catches up on some much needed rest. I guess St. Louis was a lot of work. He said it was really hot. Must have drained him of all his energy.
He's got to recharge.
Yeah. I'm hoping today, and this is unfortunate, I had to get up this morning and do the show. We'll be working in here till about 12:30, 1 o'clock. So hopefully when I get out, he is up, moving about. I can interest him in a bush light or a natural light or something like that, and we'll have some fun today. My fear is this is the kind of guy TJ is. So TJ's planning on leaving Thursday. He's got a commercial flight to fly to Sonoma around 6 o'clock, right? So he needs to get headed toward Charlotte for that flight, I'd say around 3:30, 4 o'clock, right? He's got plenty of time to leave here and get home. Plenty of time. It's only a couple hours drive. So, but I bet you, we're gonna see how this works, but I'm gonna bet you that, oh, my Tesla's broke. I got to go home and plug it in, or I got to go home and check it out, whatever. Oh, my Tesla. I'm going to bet you he leaves this vacation a day early.
Oh.
Because I don't want to drive and then go to the airport, and I don't want to drive home, then go to the airport and have the commercial flight. Yeah. So I got a couple friends like that. Don't see things through. You know what I'm saying?
That can be draining to deal with.
Oh, yeah. I might need a rest. I might need a day of rest. I might need to take a day off. Let's head on into the industry news. So, listen, man, everybody knows. Let's talk a little bit about SHR. Everybody knows that I'm a massive Josh Berry fan. I mean, we raced with Josh for 10 years in the late model stocks. He has been like part of our family. We worked personally. I invested personally for Josh to race in the Xfinity Series for a couple years that got him to that Cup level. It's my belief that of any driver that would become available for other teams to consider. Josh is by far the most talented and turnkey-ready race-winning driver. I know he's in his rookie year in Cup, but I feel like that, if you're looking for a driver who has the most talent and is turnkey ready, personally, emotionally, mature-wise, he's the guy. And Rodney Childers, I think, is available as a crew chief for a package deal. And so I'm watching all of the SHR news and the silly season news even that all of this is affecting. And I'm really paying the most attention to what happens to Josh Berry and where he may end up. I absolutely think he belongs in Cup, and I think that all of the teams that are either having new opportunities with new charters and drivers to put in those cars should be considering Josh as the driver to hire. So, we'll have to see how Josh's season goes. I think that him and Rodney are motivated to try to get that win or a couple wins before the end of the season, and that's all Josh can do. Every week is a job interview, if you will,
like a tryout.
Yeah. And so that's weighing on me a little bit personally. And I think honestly, there's not just the Stewart-Haas charters shaking things up that is detrimental, but also opportunity creating for a lot of these drivers like Josh. Martin Truex Jr. and his decision to either stay another year or retire is a big domino. And the idea is that, so if Martin Truex Jr. does retire, you got to think there's a handful of drivers that would be considered for that car. And I think one of those drivers that would be considered is Noah Gragson because of his connection to Bass Pro Shop. Bass Pro spends a lot of money on Martin's car, the 19. I think that they would probably say to Joe Gibbs, I'll pitch in a little bit more if Noah can be considered. I think the problem is I'm not sure how favorable Joe and Ty Gibbs would be to having Noah as a teammate. Yeah. So,
oh man.
Right. So, would they consider Josh? Ty Gibbs raced with Josh in the Cars Tour. They know each other well. I think they have a great relationship. And Josh has worked with Bass Pro in the past. And so Johnny and Morris and those folks at Bass Pro know who Josh is. But, that would depend on what Truex is going to do. But no matter what, if Truex does retire, someone goes into that 19, and that also would open up a ride elsewhere. And, I've heard rumors that Noah could be going to the 3. I don't believe those rumors. That's really kind of far-fetched. Even though Austin retiring and setting into a managing role at RCR is something I see in his future. I hope that Austin would one day be the president and running RCR, but I don't know that time has come for him to make that choice. They made making some changes on his own team to try to get him better, and he had a great run this past week. So maybe he still believes that there's something left in the tank. Where do these charters end up? We think that Trackhouse ends up with one of the charters, and maybe 2311 ends up with one of the charters. I think that Front Row keeps the other 2 charters in some arrangement that because they're moving into, I guess, the Stewart-Haas building is the talk of the town. And so I think that Front Row will probably operate 4 charters next year. And so where do all these drivers end up that are racing for Stewart-Haas? And then it's not, you don't have to, if you're worried about any of those drivers, right? If you're like me, I got Josh Berry that I'm paying attention to. And yeah, I'm pretty curious where Noah ends up because of our connection with him. There's also this other layer of drivers that we often forget to talk about, like the Corey Heim. There's these, Zane Smith. There's this level of younger drivers also right underneath the Noah Gragsons that are in the Trucks or Xfinity Series that would even be considered. And SVG is going to probably take one of the Trackhouse.
Right. Yeah.
Trackhouse could end up already pretty much being settled with their current lineup plus SVG. So, and with NASCAR saying, hey, teams can only have 3 charters, or this may be baked into this new charter agreement, teams can't have 4 cars, right? I guess I'm not sure how this works for Front Row or any other team. I'm not. I wonder I wonder how this will be written. Whereas, are they saying you can't own 4 charters, right? So like. Front Row or Bob Jenkins or Trackhouse with Justin. Maybe you can own 3, but there's a 4th team operating underneath the same roof. I could see that as being possible, as a way for, if I wanted to own a charter, right? If I want to freak everybody out, we're not going to buy a charter. I'm not buying a charter. But if I wanted to own one, I could maybe send it and race it out of the same building as a team who has 3 charters, right? I'm pretty sure that's probably possible. And that's what I think Front Row ends up doing. And so, we're all just kind of still waiting to learn. I think we kind of feel like we know where the charters are going to go. It's who's going to get hired to drive for who. I think Trackhouse is pretty sorted. If 2311 gets this 3rd charter, who goes into that car? What happens with Truex, and then the Front Row's situation.
There's a lot moving around. You mentioned you and the charters. There obviously we know your stance on it, but like why are you not getting into now these 4 SHR charters that are opening up?
Huh? Why am I?
You in the charter game.
Yeah, well, they're just too expensive. I don't doubt. Listen, I don't doubt that I could. If you took, 15 or $20 million and put it into one of these charters. I mean, if they're selling for $25-30 million, I believe that charters will be worth $100-150 million, possibly, maybe way more. Right? I mean, we never. You look at NFL franchises and how they sold for hundreds of millions of dollars 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and now they're selling for billions of dollars, and they continue to go up, right? And so, and I remember when the Panthers were for sale, and when Washington sold, what the numbers were, and they're far more valuable today, and I think that happens to the NASCAR charter on a much, much smaller scale, but especially when this new charter agreement gets announced and it's now public knowledge that the business model looks more favorable, the charter value goes up. And so right now, the business model looks terrible. The teams will tell you it's terrible, and that's why they want a new agreement. And so when that all gets resolved, the value will then pop a little bit. And I think it just continues to grow annually, as it naturally has, right? Charters were selling for $2 million, $6 million, $12 million, $20 million, $30, $40 million, and now they've kind of ratcheted back down just a little bit. But because I felt like that was probably more where, if they're selling for $25, $30 million, I feel like that's probably a more realistic value of the charter. I believe they're going to be more valuable, yes. But if I park that money in that charter, it's not like a piece of stock that I can turn around and sell. If you're going into ownership, you're in it for life, and it would be something that you would probably pass on to your kids, right? Me personally, I would rather do something else with that money, for the benefit of my girls. And so I can take that, and there's a lot of investments and opportunities, right? That buying land or whatever wherever you want to park things and put them into trusts and things like that, and it's very complicated on how taxes and all those things work when you start putting things in trust for your children. I'm not buying a charter and putting millions of dollars away into something that I can't then recoup or sell for a profit. I'm not going to. I feel like that would be. I feel like that would be wrong of me because of our legacy and my last name to buy into a charter, then turn around and sell it a couple years later and try to reap a profit. If you're going to get into this, you got to get in with commitment, not for the money, not for the potential. We've always raced to go win a race and compete, not thinking about it as a way to profit. And so I can do that with other investments or whatever for my girls. And so I mean, I don't know. I think it's just me and Kelly have talked about getting into it, and we've seen some opportunities to do that. They didn't work out. We've had a lot of conversations with everybody. And we're still talking to people. To be quite honest with you, we're still like at the table talking to different teams about maybe partnering or investing or getting. We're always like open to hearing what somebody thinks about what a partnership with us would look like. But none of them to this point have been like, oh man, that's a win for everybody. That's it.
We got to get on that.
That's a perfect match, man. That's exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah.
For the longest time, me and Kelly thought if we were going to race in the Cup Series, we wanted to own and operate. We want to race it out of our building. We wanted to be able to choose crew chiefs and mechanics and all of the. We wanted to be the reason or be part of why the car was either successful or winning races or doing well on the track. And trying to part from that is tough because if we're doing something with a partner or something already existing, we're not going to be making any decisions. I don't know if it's something that's interesting for Kelly or me, but it's just tough. And as the price goes up, it gets harder to make that commitment. That is a large amount of money to be sending off to really never see again, right? I mean, you're not gonna spend that money and then turn around 10 years later and go, all right, guys, I had fun. Give me my money back. It just doesn't work that way. And so, I don't know. I'll miss the day, and I guess you still can. I miss the days where you could just build a car in the shop and decide, hey, we're going to go enter this race. The cars are more expensive than they ever were, and it just feels really unrealistic. Whereas I was when I was younger, you'd go buy the chassis, take it over to this guy to hang the body, get this guy to drive it, and go race, try to qualify, right? And now it's so expensive just to buy the parts and pieces, and this car, there's not like you can't just go hire a crew chief that has 20 years of experience and think you're going to do well because this car is so new. There's only really a small pool of people that truly understand it and could take your brand new car and your brand new team and go be competitive. You'd have to really work at it week in, week out. And so for a startup team that's not even having a charter, an open team, to go compete, it's really, really challenging right now. Now, as we get further down the road, I think with this new car, it's not so new anymore, and there's a lot more people in the industry that know this car and how to make it work. It feels easier, it feels better, more comfortable to take an open car and go compete. We've even had those conversations about going and running an open race with a car. Yeah, I mean, we thought about everything. We talked about everything. And there's not, and I'm not saying no to anything, but right now it doesn't look favorable for us to ever own a charter outright. And so something major would have to change in the sport. But it's still, I'm on the sideline. I'm a fan. We still love being in the Xfinity Series, and I really say that with all honesty, that being in the Xfinity Series is a lot of fun, and we serve a great purpose there for the series and for the sport. And we provide a lot of opportunity, not just for drivers, but like all of our employees and the people that come through our shop and all those crew chiefs that want to make it to the next level, the Cup level. I love the purpose we serve there. So if we're kind of comfortable doing that, it's like, all right, well, charter's not. If this charter deal doesn't look really like a great fit, we're pretty happy where we are. I think that makes it easier to say no to some of the opportunities that you get presented on the Cup side.
Yeah. That should hopefully answer those questions. We were seeing a bunch of those.
We see them all the time.
Yeah.
I also wanted to talk about the trademark of the 8. So there's been this conversation on social media, online, around the old DEI trademark for the number 8, and all the things you're reading about that for the most part are true. Like we have noticed that, at least as far as I know, Teresa hasn't re-upped for that trademark. And Kelly and I both were interested in acquiring ownership of that. And I just want to say that my feelings around this are very plain and basic. I either want Teresa to have it, and if she were to come in and re-up, I'd be totally comfortable and happy about that. Or I would like to have it. I would love it to stay either hers or mine and not end up somewhere else. And so there's one thing that I'll say about Teresa is if in terms of owning a trademark and protecting things like that, protecting our legacy and our family name, I have a lot of trust in her around those things. And so she's very smart, very savvy, always thinking. She takes some emotion, or takes emotion out of business decisions and says, this is what's fair, this is what's right. And so in terms of this, I just want to, I would be completely fine if she reacquired the trademark. And so, but if she doesn't, I would hate for it to just wander out into the middle distance, right? And so I'd want to make sure that Kelly or I were able to get it if she's not interested in having that any longer. So that's kind of where we are on that. I know a lot of people are talking about that.
What would it mean to you if you did end up having it, to have that kind of back, in your possession?
Yeah, we'll talk about that if we get it. I don't think that it's I don't want to talk about it or assume or be hypothetical about it. I just, I either want her to continue to own it, or if she's not interested in doing that anymore, then I would like to be able to get it up underneath our roof. And me and Kelly haven't even sat down and talked about what that would mean in terms of what happens, how we would use it, right? And so, I would not be interested in spamming the NASCAR ecosystem with vintage retro 8 gear.
Right.
I know that there are fans that would like to have some items, so maybe we would do like a small batch of select, like one shirt, one hat, just sort of figure out something kind of nice and tasteful. But I would probably have interest in using the number either in the Cars Tour races. If Kelly would be fine with this, we have other owners in the Junior Motorsports building that would have to sign off on ever using that number at the Xfinity level. But I would be wanting to activate it, right? I'd be wanting to get it out there and get it going. So, but it depends on what Teresa wants to do. I think she gets first dibs. I'm totally happy if she keeps ownership of it, because I trust that she will will protect it as she always has. So Larson's waiver update. We're still waiting, right?
And I believe Jeff Gluck actually just tweeted an update. So this is as of about 10 o'clock this morning on Tuesday. But NASCAR is expected to announce this morning that Kyle Larson has received a waiver to remain eligible in the playoffs. And that's the story, obviously, with him and Jordan Bianchi on The Athletic. So I think that's the most recent update as of not too long ago from Jeff Gluck.
All right, there you have it. So Larson's going to get that waiver. I know there was a lot of conversation around this, and we won't drag it out any further. I thought Jeff Gluck on their show, The Teardown this week, was really smart in saying, hey, this isn't a thing where NASCAR is dragging this out to get clicks or create a conversation. There's real hesitation and real concern about what giving this waiver means going forward. And so for me, it would not have mattered either way if he got it or not, right?
Really?
I honestly would not have thrown a fit if he had not gotten it. I felt like he should get it. I think we talked about that last week. I think that he should go race for a championship, and we should all forget about this whole mess. But if he did not get it and NASCAR chose this, I would accept it and move forward. The one thing that I hope is that NASCAR makes it a little clearer what happens going forward. All right? This is a new precedent, and what does this mean if this happens again? Is NASCAR going to say, all right, man, we're giving him his waiver, but listen, everybody, these are literally for injuries and unusual circumstances, and they need to define what that is, right? So, I just I hope that they don't just go, yep, here's his waiver, and walk out of the room without comment. You know what I mean?
Some clarity on what the waiver means, and this is what we talked about last week, is how do you qualify for one? Because we've had, Chase Elliott got a waiver for two different reasons last year. He got injured, and then he also got suspended by NASCAR and got a waiver both times. So it's like, you do something on the track that gets you suspended, but you get a waiver, but Larson maybe won't get that. That was a conversation this week. Obviously,
that's good.
It seems like he's getting one, but
listen, I think so. If you're racing out on the track and you're a lap down, right, and you're wanting to get the lucky dog, and the caution comes out, but you were involved in it, or you started it or created it. And the caution comes out, and you're in position for the lucky dog or the wave round, or the free pass. I'm sorry. NASCAR, per the rule, will not let you get that free pass because you were involved in the yellow.
Right.
And so I know this is a smaller scale, but I feel like if you get suspended, NASCAR knows, like, if you get suspended, you should get a waiver, right?
Yeah, I could agree with that. I think
if your
what
suspension
Chase did was more egregious than Larson.
Agreed.
If we're comparing the two.
Yeah, Larson didn't do anything that warrants a suspension, right? He just had a bit of bad luck with the weather. If you get suspended and have to miss a race, then that's part of the punishment. And NASCAR needs to decide, all right, man, we're going to suspend this guy. If we suspend him a race, he's going to miss the championship chase. We're not going to suspend him a race and then give him the waiver to get him back in. So maybe they don't suspend him a race for what he did. All right? Maybe they docked him. Maybe instead of suspending Chase the race and knocking him out of the chance to compete every week, right, that would then, where they're then having to give him a waiver, they should have probably Chase should probably have suspended him points or something else, or a monetary fine there. That's all debatable and fun to talk about, but we'll see what NASCAR says when they give this waiver to Larson, which I figured they would. let's see what they say about it if they clear up, what we're going to do going forward, what they're going to do going forward. Let's hear why they said they give this waiver to Larson, listen to their words, try to understand exactly where they're coming from. I think there was real hesitation at the highest top position in this sport. Some of the real decision makers were thinking, hey, this sets a new precedent. They would have not done this 20 years ago, 10 years ago, but they're doing it today. I did not believe the words that Denny Hamlin was saying on his show this week about how, long time ago, they used to say, Bill France and Bill France Jr. would say, look, man, the sport's bigger than the drivers. The sport's bigger than you as an individual, and we will, you can come in here and play, be successful, but this sport will be here long after you're gone. And Denny's saying on his show that he feels a little bit different about that in this day and time, that the drivers carry a lot more value than that statement would incur. So I feel that it's still the way it's always been. Nobody's that big. Nobody's going to carry the sport in a way it will, the sport will continue and the sport will succeed and survive well beyond all of us. But this does set a new precedent, as I stated. So we'll just have to see how it goes.
I'm glad they did give him the waiver because, you were talking about the precedent of if he didn't get it, I think that discourages anyone from doing the double again. Obviously Larson tried to make both of them work. And, of course, like if we're comparing, like you said, if you're the cause of the caution, you shouldn't get your lap back. Chase's suspension, he gets a waiver, but Larson doesn't. And Larson didn't do anything wrong but the weather. So I'm glad NASCAR's making this decision in terms of giving Larson a waiver.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should give it to him, but I would have not. It would have not.
Yeah, so if it went the other way,
it would have not floored me. I would have not been. Would you have been like throwing?
I would have been very surprised. I wouldn't be throwing stuff because we got a ticker that's very fragile in there.
Well, I mean, what would your reaction have been? How mad would you?
I would be disappointed with NASCAR. Yeah. I would be Larson. What does Larson do now? I mean, like he's racing for an owners championship, which, by the way, if he goes and wins that owners championship and then another driver wins the drivers championship, oh my God, is that the biggest asterisk in the sport's history? I feel like in terms of
it happens in the Xfinity Series all the time.
I don't know. I feel like that's different. This is the highest level.
You kids and y'all.
Now you sound like people on Twitter.
Well, I'm not. I'm just saying, man. I've just been around so long that none of this flips me upside down like it does you young kids. It doesn't. I mean, look, I don't want Larson not to get the waiver, but if he doesn't get it, NASCAR has a reason. And I'd probably sit down, if you had a chance for them to come in the room and tell you, this is the reason we made this decision, or any decision they make. You'll be surprised, man. They really do put a lot of thought into this and you might not always agree with them, which I don't always agree, but I'm not,
I don't doubt NASCAR's ability to think through a situation. I know they're certainly talking about it, but this is, I mean, you look at drivers, and this is a double precedent, right? Racing the double.
Yeah.
If they didn't give Larson this waiver, man, a tradition, something we celebrate of drivers doing the double, man, that is seriously in jeopardy.
When was the last time a driver did the double?
I want to say it was Kurt Busch was the last time, right?
10 years. It was like 10 years ago.
Something like that. I'll look it up.
So
it's like 2014.
It's not like this happening every year.
But I think that's what makes it cool. It's what makes it special. When's the next driver going to do the double? We get excited because Larson had a real chance of maybe winning both if things went his way.
I I care less about the implications on the double. I
Me
care
too.
more about like the don't run it. Like, you're a NASCAR driver. I mean, I love seeing it happen, but I care more about implications on playoff, TV ratings. I mean, we saw a dip with Chase Elliott last year when he was out, and then he wasn't in the playoffs, and now you're taking out Kyle Larson, who's arguably the most recognizable race car driver in the world. And so that's why I think he needed to get the waiver. I think it's a common sense decision for NASCAR to make. I know that the rules are rules, but sometimes you just got to use your head. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
I mean, Denny put it well, and this is the Coca-Cola 600. It is a crown jewel in NASCAR. It's a very special race, but on that day, the Indianapolis 500 is the bigger event, right? And Denny even says it on his show, like, we NASCAR crushes them 95% of the other time, but the Indy 500, that is the race of the day. And for Larson, I mean, we call him the modern day Mario Andretti. Well, Mario raced the Indianapolis 500. He had a big career in open wheel racing. I want to see Larson be able to do that while also still be able to race in NASCAR.
Well, he should have checked the
I
weather.
don't question his decision of staying. Huh? He should have fixed the
looked
weather.
They should have looked at the weather on Monday.
Yeah.
I don't question his decision to stay either. I think he should have stayed. But then you have these dominoes that fall.
Yeah, but it's kind of like it's like you and your buddies got tickets to this concert, but your mom said you got to be home at 8:00 to do your homework, and you're like, well, the concert's running late. I didn't have the headliner is an hour late to the stage. What do I do, right? You get
Break
your ass
curfew.
home. You break curfew.
And I expect the teacher to give me
Depends on the
a free
artist.
pass.
That's what he did.
Yeah, and so, I think it was good I think NASCAR took the time that they needed. They tried to make a decision that was fair, and it seems like they're going to. And I don't know. It's everything played out the way it should have, in my opinion.
I worry that I wonder too, like if they don't give him the waiver, if they chose not to, how that would have maybe ruffled the feathers of the two organizations, right? Would Indy be a little pissed, right? Would Indy fans think it was a knock on Indy?
Have a little rivalry going on.
Yeah, we don't
Be
need that.
interesting.
I see down at the bottom of the screen our race winner from St. Louis has entered
the chat.
Well, I appreciate you calling in today. The winner from St. Louis. So it's been a bit of a tough run since you came on into the series, winning the Daytona 500. You've kind of struggled, and there's been, look, man, I mean, I'm not putting it on you, the whole organization. There's been some times when Penske just hasn't looked like themselves over the last couple of years, man, but you finally get yourself back to victory lane. I guess my first question to you is, how have you managed the emotions of racing in the Cup Series versus your experience from Xfinity or anything in the past? The Cup Series can be brutal, and you've went through it in terms of trying to keep your own personal morale up, much less the team. How do you manage that to be able to capitalize on opportunities like this past Sunday?
Yeah, no, Dale, it's definitely some days are better than others from that perspective. But it's interesting because you watch, whether if it's watching the Cup Series from afar as a younger driver, or even watching other professional sports, watching college players move up into the NFL and so on. It's definitely it's a different ball game when you move up into the Cup Series from the Xfinity Series, and you're a much different leader because of how big everything is, how challenged everything is, the level in which the competition is. But as far as how I keep morale up, or how I keep my spirits up, or how I motivate myself, I'm just a really internally motivated person. I'm extremely competitive. It might not come out like I'm not that intense about it, but it's like really all I care about is racing and what I do, and I've centered my life around that, and there's really nothing else. And I feel like in some ways I'm not very well rounded because I've kind of gone to that extreme, but it's really all I care about. And some days are easier than others. You have flashes of brilliance every once in a while, but last year was the first year since 2011 that I hadn't won a race in anything, and that's quite a long time for me is that gap. But I think it's what it takes though is to be able to have a process in place, have people surround you that not just believe in you or believe in the process, but have a process that is ready to go to win, to be the absolute best, or at least be at a high level when the opportunity presents itself. And what we were able to do this past weekend, in my opinion, was just that. And I feel like a lot of validation, not necessarily from like the result, but a lot of validation that, hey, if we bring that to the racetrack, we can run with these guys, we can race for wins. And it's about having that level of performance every week, and being able to look at that as a case study for our team to spend the next 3 months to get ready for the opportunity that we have to be in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs.
What is the one attribute or one sensation that is the most challenging with the next gen car for you that you feel like is kind of common in the garage? Like, we and what I'm kind of looking for is, when I was struggling, I could always kind of pinpoint to where every week I had the same issue. There was a lot of other things that were creating problems in pace, but either we weren't turning in the middle or didn't have the right, the front grip that I needed everywhere we went. What is the one thing, the one sensation that you get from this car that you find makes it difficult, I guess, for you to have days like you had Sunday?
Yeah, I would say for every member on the team, whether if that's crew chiefs, engineers, drivers, mechanics, it's the conversation of, well, everybody's got the same stuff. You have the same thing he has, whether if that's with your teammates coming with the same setup or guys we're racing against that are running well and we aren't. That conversation makes it very difficult to find. You would think it'd make it easier to find the problem, but it makes it harder to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Because with the previous generation cars, like, you had a problem, you're just going to go, forget everything else, we're just going to come up with the best idea to fix it. And that's going to make us better. And it's much easier to just go, yep, we're going to look at ourselves, we're going to make this solution, and we're going to go see how good it is. And it's not that easy to just go, yep, we're going to look at ourselves and we're going to make a decision, and this is going to make us better because we've done the research on why. Yeah. It's a lot harder to kind of point the finger of where those things are, because if I could drive deeper into the corner, I would. If I could get on the gas sooner, I would. Those are the types of things, but also what is correct, what is right, why things are the way they are, why is fast. And from a driver's perspective or data perspective of trying to understand those things, we have all the resources, from a driver's standpoint as you possibly could hope for in forms of motorsports. Like, I talk to IndyCar drivers, IMSA drivers, guys in the Formula One industry, that the fact that I have, Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson's driver data, and that sounds like gold when you tell it to these guys. And the fact that I have that and can't beat them every week makes me, talking to them makes me feel like I'm just not good enough. So it's a wild thing that we have access to, in comparison, and it makes it, that much. It can be that much more draining, honestly, when you have all that information, you're still not able to produce.
Yeah.
But then when you have weekends like this weekend, if I'm being 100% honest, Dale, this was the easiest race I've run all year. Honestly, there are cars that existed in that race that I never saw. And I usually see the entire field. It's either in front of me, behind me, I'm passing it, it's passing me. It's crazy in the middle of the field in the Cup Series. And it's so hard, and you work that hard because it is this glorious utopia in the top 3, the top 5 that you're hoping to find, because it makes what my spotter's telling me, makes the information the guys at the shop are looking at that much simpler, to be able to go out there and absolutely nail it. And I feel like that's what our team was able to do, and was I'm proud of that we were prepared to do that on really any given weekend, but especially this weekend.
Yeah, I remember when we talk, every time we hear about listening to drivers' inputs and all the SMT data, it reminds me of, I think it was around 2014 or 14 probably, where we had a partnership with Stewart-Haas Racing, and we could see everything that Harvick was doing with Rodney Childers. They came onto the scene. They were hauling ass everywhere. And Harvick ran part throttle through the turns at Charlotte and other places where you would never, you'd lift all the way out of the gas, back in the gas. Well, he never came all the way off throttle. We could not figure out like what he was doing, they were like, just do that, drive it that way. And I'm like, yeah, my car will plow into the fence if I don't lift all the way out of the gas and unlock the locker. And I was like, there's something else going on that we don't have that they are doing. And so I couldn't imagine being a driver today. I've thought about this for you guys, and I don't envy having your crew, your crew chief, engineer saying, here's your teammates' inputs. Do that. That's faster. His car's faster. You have the same car. Go do what he's doing. And I'd be like, it's not that simple. So I'm surprised you guys are able to keep your composure, because I imagine maybe sometimes in the hauler, behind closed doors, it gets a little heated when you're trying to debate, what your teammates are doing and what you're trying to do with the car. And another thing I wanted to ask you is, so I've talked to a couple drivers about this, and with NASCAR basically building and supplying you the chassis, and you having a smaller batch of chassis really than you would have had years ago. You had 15 race cars in the past. Now you have a small select group of cars to pull from. There are bad cars. There are cars that no matter what you do, every time you take them to the track, they just don't run well. They don't do everything right. We would build cars back in the day, 10, 20 years ago. You'd have some that were great, but you'd have this one car that just you could never get it to turn, and it'd sit in the corner, and you'd never run it. I hear that that's sometimes still the case with the next gen. Do you have cars in the shop where you're like, every time we take that car to the racetrack, I love it. Every time we take this car to the track, I struggle. Do you still experience that?
Yeah, I think it's funny you bring that up, because my first full-time racing stock cars was in the truck series, and at BKR, our trucks had names. They didn't have chassis numbers. They had names, whether if it was Murdoch or Fireball or Wrong Way or something. They were all names, and they're all very personal. And I feel like that's definitely, in my mind, that was like the old school NASCAR approach of things. And obviously, they're handmade. They're pieces of art in a lot of ways. And obviously, with the next gen car, obviously it's much different. We're not making them as race teams. And in the, I'll be honest, and I haven't really even brought this up to crew chiefs and stuff, but in the scope of trying to figure out how to be better, trying to figure out what to do to better myself, better my race team, the thought definitely crossed my mind of on every debrief sheet, write down my chassis number, just make some data points, because I make a lot of notes. I provide all the notes to the teams. I'm like, you know what? I should start doing this. And I'm like, you know what? That's a bad idea. Ignorance is bliss. And on top of that, I really do feel like, Team Penske does probably a better job than any other organization of quality control. And I feel like that's from top to bottom, whether if that's in our NASCAR programs, IMSA programs, IndyCar programs. Is on display at Indy with the front row lockout. If our cars are fast, it's hard to think that we're not all going to be that good if we're that good. So and this weekend at Gateway was a great example of that as well. So obviously it doesn't work out that great every time, but super speedway qualifying is that as well. So I think for us as a team, I have a lot of confidence in our organization from that standpoint. Not trying to say that we're better than anybody else, but we do a really good job of that kind of stuff. So I didn't want to let that get in my head as far as another reason or have some sort of an excuse, an unexplainable excuse to not performing.
Well, man, I know you got a busy week. I appreciate all the information and conversation today, and thanks for giving us a little bit of time to talk to you. Congratulations on getting a W, and have a lot of fun the rest of the week, man. We'll be pulling for you. Go get you a championship.
Appreciate it, guys.
So always great to talk to Austin, and even all the winners. I love what we're doing this year, being able to talk to the winner and get their information about whatever we want to ask them. So I appreciate Austin calling in today, and he was in position when things go wrong for a couple other drivers. He's in position to capitalize, and you got to run good to be in that position. So he's got to feel good about this win. Christopher Bell, though, best car on the racetrack for the majority of the race, and showing what they're capable of doing. People will say that, if you're going to say, hey, what's similar to Phoenix, I'd say St. Louis has a lot of characteristics that are very, very similar to Phoenix. So if Christopher Bell might be disappointed in the overall outcome of the day, he could look forward and say, well, if we can take any of this to Phoenix, we're in a really good position if we get an opportunity to race for a championship. I'd also say that this may be good for Christopher Bell at places like Loudon or New Hampshire, other tracks that are similar to St. Louis. But it was I watched some of the race. I watched the majority of the race, and thought it was really fun to watch. A lot of different grooves. I know the tire really wasn't wearing out that much, but it did put a lot of rubber down on the racetrack, and the drivers were able to move around on the racetrack and create opportunities to get runs on each other. And so from my perspective, it's pretty entertaining. One thing I wanted to ask Austin before we had to let him go there was the vibe at St. Louis. How does St. Louis, not only just as a racetrack, is it fun? Is it cool to race on? It looks fun, looks multi-groove. But the atmosphere seems to be really good there. A lot of fans interested, a lot of fans there at the track supporting the event. The track itself seems to go above and beyond to with the pyro and all kinds of things, trying to make it feel like a cup race, right? And so while they were off the schedule and never really been considered for a cup race for so long, it seems like they're meeting all the criteria, checking all the boxes about, as far as, because I talk about that because it feels like now the cup schedule is so fluid, and there's a lot of places that NASCAR wants to go, and that means the schedule could be always in a bit of a change, And so how are tracks like St. Louis faring? How are they doing to ensure their success and long-term future? But it seems like to me that it's doing a really good job.
Yeah, that Midwest crowd is a little bit underrated, I feel like, in NASCAR. Yeah. Like, people showed up for Chicago. Iowa has had a great track record on the IndyCar side. I'm curious to see how that looks in a few weeks.
I'm a little bit worried about Iowa, as we saw with the the photos and images from the tire test. They paved parts of the racetrack, and unfortunately, you're never, ever going to want to get out of that newer pavement. So wherever they put new pavement is where the cars are going to go. And I know this track was extremely rough, and it was the very reason why I never went there in the Xfinity Series was because of listening to my drivers talk about how bad the bumps were, especially getting down into turn one. And so they probably had to fix the track, but why they didn't pave the whole track is interesting. So I'm not sure what kind of race, if it'll be a good one or not when we actually go there for real.
Is that to make it more multi-groove? Like, is that to make the outside more prominent, or is that was just
they paved the bottom, buddy?
I thought they paved the middle groove.
Not much of it.
Well, they did in 3 and 4. They paved the middle, but I mean that's where you're going to run. It's going to be so much better that you won't want to not run there, and nobody would go outside of that groove for any reason. It's going to tear your tires up, be more abrasive on the tire. So if you want to run, you're going to have a faster car, more grip, and better tire life to stay in the new asphalt. When we paved a grip strip around the top of Pocono, you had to run up there. After several years, you could make that bottom work to try to make a pass, but the grip strip is what it was called at Pocono in the top of turn 3. You had to be on it to have any chance at a lap. It was like half a second faster. So, I hate to use the word trouble, but I'm concerned about that. Also in the race, Larson and Kyle Busch had a little accident. That just a racing deal. Larson thought that Kyle Busch crowded him a little bit. Kyle Busch's quotes, he said he thought it, I'm sure it was my fault, hate it for my guys. I don't know whether he was, being a little sarcastic or not, but
I think he was being a little sarcastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because we usually don't see cars get loose underneath each other because the side force isn't quite as important for the inside car anymore with this new next gen. They can race side by side without the inside car losing a ton of grip like we used to have, or like the trucks or Xfinity cars can do. So I was surprised that even happened. But I think it's just two hard-headed, tough, fast race car drivers had a racing accident. And there's nothing more than that. But I guess, there's some concern about Kyle Busch because of where he is in the points.
Yeah.
So
DBC and Actions Detrimental were both talking about that, and the rest of Kyle's quote was, "I'm sure it's my fault, hate it for the guys. We can't afford days like this." He is 18th in the playoff standings, with Austin Cindric winning this past weekend. Like, is it time to panic? Is it beyond panic time for Kyle Busch?
No, you don't panic. I mean, for Kyle Busch and everything that he's experienced in this series, he's a champion, multi-time champion, and plenty, won all the races that anybody could want to win. So he's never going to hit the panic button. Whatever happens. He'll work to try to get himself into the playoffs, and if that doesn't happen, they'll, he won't be happy about it, but I don't think you're ever going to see Kyle Busch panic or hit the panic button. But I can see him getting frustrated. Like the question for me, I think what I'll pay attention to is how will Kyle keep his team headed in the right direction, even in failure, right? So if they don't make the playoffs, how does Kyle get this group turned around to where they come back stronger? So that's kind of what you have to – I think that's what you have to watch for. And, I think Kyle's older and wiser and will handle this much better than Kyle Busch from 10, 15 years ago. And so, he's but I think we all knew when he went to RCR that this wasn't what we expected out of Kyle Busch in the 8, but we knew there was a potential for these type of seasons. I mean, I don't know how you guys felt about it when he went there, but I mean, RCR ebbs and flows. They'll find something that keeps them
relevant
in position to win, especially with a driver like Kyle Busch. And then they'll have these moments where they just don't have it, right? They just don't have it right now. And even Kyle Busch is not able to find the pace in these cars. So I don't think that they stay there all year. I think that eventually they get something going, and he's in position to win a few races. I just don't see Kyle Busch being a 15th place driver the rest of the year.
By the way, news breaking as of right now, it has been made official. Larson granted the waiver. Elton Sawyer is going to speak momentarily about the decision, so maybe we'll get his answer as to why they granted him the waiver here just in a little bit. We're live reacting on this show.
Yeah. Doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't. I wanted to ask you about the crazy finish. What did you think of the front two guys, both Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney, are left heartbroken for different reasons at the end of the race. What did you think of that, and then Cindric coming and winning the race?
I thought you were transitioning to the Cars Tour when you're talking about crazy finishes.
we can talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, we will. I was surprised that Blaney ran out. I think they were too. I don't think he knew he was going to run out of gas.
He was.
They weren't. Yeah, they weren't. I wonder how that happens, where the miscalculation comes. These teams are trying to limit how much time they spend on pit road, and are trying. They're only putting enough gas in the car to make sure that it gets to the finish line. And when you push it and do those type of things, you can have some miscalculations or miscommunication, and that's it puts you in a very tight window to finish the race, and they stepped over that line. But just bad luck for Christopher Bell, and a mistake on Blaney's team's part to not have the car, enough fuel in the car, or there was something with this car that didn't pick up the fuel that was in the tank. So it's an opportunity for a guy like Cindric that comes out and wins the race. He's sitting there when those other two guys have trouble.
I couldn't believe my eyes when it was happening, though. I was so excited to see Bell and Blaney battle it out, because Bell just had a rocket ship. Yeah. We've said it. And I was, with the aero blocking and all we've talked about, I'm like, if there's a car that can make a pass, I think it's going to be this one. And then all of a sudden he's like, I'm blowing up. It's over. And my heart just sank because I wanted it for him. And then Blaney coming to the checker, just out of gas.
Coming to the white.
Oh, coming to the white, yeah, out of gas. Like, gosh, it was like drawing yarn from one storyline to the other. The whole race was incredible.
Yeah. You have to wonder why the car had an engine failure. We rarely have part failures with these cars anymore, but we do. They do a lot of shifting
that's what they said.
At Gateway, right?
Yeah.
Specifically.
And so, what you can when you're downshifting, maybe sometimes a lot of the guys will downshift in the middle of the corner, but maybe looking at Christopher Bell, I wonder if his downshifts, he was using a little bit of engine braking on entry to the corner to try to make some speed. But who knows? I hate shifting at the ovals, but in this case, it's possible that the shifting actually was the reason why we pushed parts and pieces beyond their limit, which I love the idea that we're racing cars that can be broken if you don't drive them correctly, right? It feels like that in this day and time, the idea of somebody suffering engine failure is just so rare, when it used to be very common. But so that's pretty interesting, I think, for me as a traditionalist, in terms of a fan who loves, how things used to be. But I think the one takeaway from this race for me, probably the biggest thing that jumps off the page, is Justin Haley.
Yeah, he finished
in the top 10.
P9 for Justin Haley. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. He's done, I think he's got 2 top 10s in the last 3 races or in the last 2 races. Man, I'm telling you, when he came into our studio and told us that he was going to race for Rick Ware, I just wasn't sure how to feel about that, and I don't think I could honestly look at him in the face and go, "Man, I'm excited for you."
Yeah.
He was sitting there telling us, "I believe in this choice. I think I'm doing the right thing. I've been over to the shop. I've met everybody there. This is going to work." And I would have lost any money I put on that bet. But here he is, legitimately running well. A lot of races they've ran better than I've ever seen them run, and I think everybody's paying attention. But I think as he does this, we will watch more and more about Justin Haley and what Rick Ware, what are they truly capable of. Just a hell of a thing, man. I don't know what other options he might have had. Maybe this was the only one. but it's been a long time since I've seen something this remarkable happen in our sport. We have moments where amazing things happen. We see amazing things, but I don't know, when's the last time you've seen a driver and a team that had performed so poorly get these type of results? It's I'd love to see some comparisons, who people think this measures up to. What have you seen in the sport that you would say this is just like this? I'm having a hard time. I mean, I guess I go back to Furniture Row.
That's my thought too.
And yeah, how they were for so many years. I just assumed that 78 car was going to be, back in the 30s for the duration of its existence, and they turned it into a winner and a Cup champion. And this feels very similar.
Props to Justin Haley. I remember questioning him on this show. I don't know. We did the preseason thing, and I didn't believe in his abilities, and I'm here to say that I was wrong. He proved me wrong.
I think that the colleague car that he drove in the Xfinity Series and in the Cup Series wasn't a good indicator of Justin Haley's true talent. And, if you want to think that's a knock on colleague, I'm not really trying to knock on them. But, I mean, I've got cars in my own building, and I've had drivers drive them, and I still look at it and go, I can't really tell how good the driver is, right? I kind of know where my cars are, but I really don't know how great this driver is, right? What is he truly capable of? So, I mean, I could say that about my own stuff at times. And I feel like that Haley, kind of similar to maybe like Harvick, right? Drove for RCR all these years, and we thought we knew who Kevin Harvick was, right? In terms of just ability. But he gets in the 4 car, and we learn, I think, that there was more to Kevin Harvick. And just again, maybe like
look at Ross
Truex.
Chastain.
Yeah.
Ross Chastain's a great example. Everyone's saying, he's out driving his stuff, but no one knew his true potential until he got in a really good car, which was the Ganassi cars at the time, now Trackhouse.
Yeah, and Truex driving for Michael all those years, and I knew Truex. He drove DEI cars for years. I thought he was great. I really did, but you really didn't learn that or see it until he got in the Furniture Row car.
Speaking of Truex, sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say? I was going to transition to the bracket challenge where Truex let me down.
Oh, yeah.
In a big way.
Yeah, he did. Apparently, there are no perfect brackets after round 1.
No.
None.
There are 10 people who are at 15 of 16. Just 10.
Yeah, which is crazy. That's insane.
It is. Yeah. There were some crazy upsets. I think it was more the Blaney running out of gas, Christopher Bell blowing up. There was those. I missed 5. And so, like, Blaney, Truex, Seabell. I actually had Josh Berry beating out, I think, Kyle Busch. So, I mean, there's 4.
Bell advanced.
He did, because he was helped by Truex
that's right.
being pushed down the straightaways.
Who I have to pull it up, but I had 5 that missed, and most of them were like, yep.
Well,
if that guy had if
Nemechek
that driver had
upset
the
Bowman.
average,
that was one that I missed.
Yeah, he beat him
Cindric,
by,
obviously, I missed.
John Hunter Nemechek beat Alex Bowman by 1 spot to advance. They finished 27th and 28th.
Yeah, Kyle Busch beat Josh Berry by 1 spot.
Well, yeah, that was the craziest matchup, I think, was the double DNF and having Kyle Busch just DNF ahead of Josh Berry.
Yeah.
Who did you pick to win? Who did you pick to win, Dale?
Outright?
Yeah.
Denny.
Nice.
Yeah. Man, I didn't want to pick Denny.
Because it's his bracket challenge.
Yeah, you're like,
Man, I just didn't. I mean, when you're doing the bracket challenge, you want to feel like and Denny's going to hate this, but when you're doing the bracket challenge, in my mind, I'm going, all right, I think the driver at the end of this should be the best driver in the field.
I kind of felt the same way last year about Byron. I picked Byron to win, and he was the man when we did
at
this
the time,
last year.
right?
At the time.
And so again, I would feel better if I had, there's one or two drivers that I would say I could argue are a little bit better than Denny at this moment. I don't really know who they are, but I'm just saying, like, when I got to the end and I was like, damn it, Denny or this guy, it's definitely Denny. I think it's Denny and Brad Keselowski.
I would pick Denny.
Finals.
I've got Christopher Bell going all the way.
I have Martin Truex Jr. going the whole way.
I
Got that one
Bell
right. Nailed that.
Denny at one point. Or no, I had Denny beating C-Bell at one point, I think. I just, he ended up being the guy. I had to pick what my gut was telling me was the right way to go. That's why I love this, man. It's like, you got to go with your gut, and you might not love your overall guy. You might not love,
but it's the solid pick.
Yeah, it's a pick you made.
These are the round 2 matchups. The updated bracket.
Denny's great. I don't
Denny's
want people
great.
to think I don't like Denny.
Okay, Freddie.
Of course, me and Denny are great, but I just was surprised when I got down to the end of those two drivers. I'm like, okay, these are the two.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. Yeah.
This is how I feel like this is going to go. I don't know.
Yeah. Round 2 matchups. It is Hamlin versus Logano, Keselowski, Nemechek, Elliott, Cindric, Gregson, Byron, Dillon, Buescher, Chastain, Gibbs, which I think could be the tightest matchup, Larson, Busch, and Bell, Reddick for Sonoma.
Yeah. I mean, I had 5 incorrect I had 5 losses, but I'm still able to clean all of that up in this next round. I didn't lose somebody that I had going deep. So if everything goes sorted, if everything goes well, it can all get sorted for me this week. I can start rocketing up the
the charts.
What's your username? What's your username for the bracket challenge?
RDE2.
RDE2.
Gotcha.
Okay, because we were trying to find you. Because you
Some
can
other,
look those brackets up.
I'm the second Ralph Dale Earnhardt.
Wow.
RDE2.
It's like playing what's that game? What was that video game where you saw the same person?
Hell Let Loose.
Hell Let Loose.
Some other notable scores. Our very own Abigail is leading the Dirty Mo pool with 130 points.
Damn.
She got 13 out of 16 right. Alex Timms got 12 right. He's in the second grouping there.
There you go, Tampa.
Then there's some of us who got 11 and 10. Some of our friends of Dirty Mo Media. Ryan McGee got 12 right. Kenny Wallace got 12 right, and Rick Allen also got 12 right.
Dang.
So thanks to them for playing along.
If I had chose Bush over Barry instead of went with my heart instead of my brain there.
Sometimes you got
I did too. I went with Barry as well. There were a lot of people who missed one, and it was perfect until the final lap when Blaney ran out of gas, which is insane to think about. Oh man, they could have gotten it perfect.
I had McDowell going pretty far in mine, and so for him not to be Ross, that one hurt because I thought he would do well at Sonoma.
I thought so too. Yeah, that's tough.
I have a bold prediction for this week.
What'd you got?
I think Busch upsets Larson, and I think Bell upsets. Well, I guess he doesn't upset, but I think
Reddick.
Bell takes Reddick out.
This week's segment was brought to you by Tire Pros. There are a few people who love cars as much as I do, but these tire and service experts, they equally love the drive. They offer a huge selection of brand name tires and full service repairs, from oil changes to alignments to brakes. Tire Pros is giving your vehicle the TLC it deserves. They're unique because each location is owned by men and women in your own community, but they have the added support and resources of over 600 locations nationwide. So next time your car needs a little help, take it to your local Tire Pros. Tell them Dale Jr. sent you.
We're live.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Ask Jr. part of the show. And we've had a lot of fun talking about, this past weekend. We're not done. We still have the Cars Tour to cover here later in the show, but they had a fantastic race at Langley. NASCAR just announced the news that Kyle Larson's going to get his waiver. And so we might have some comments or questions about that from fans in the chat, but let's get started.
Yeah, this first one is from Nick. Who has a better iRacing rating, you or TJ? Because I know you guys are both on vacation right now.
I think I have the better one. So this is what I did with that. Me and him started at the same time around 2008. And I, around 2012, I took a break. So I wanted to, I used to smoke cigarettes and I wanted to quit smoking. I did so badly. And I had to stop doing anything that I connected to that habit. And so I didn't sim race for a little while. When I came back to sim racing, after that break, I started a new account because I was so bad. I had lost all of my speed. I was so bad that I wanted to go from the ground up again and learn the whole service all over again. And so I went back down to the rookies. I retired my original account, which I think has more I rating than TJ. And I started a new one. Now my new account probably has less than TJ.
Oh.
I'm around 4,400. And he'll probably always he's probably the better iRacer right now. But if I buckled down for about a month,
you can get him back. You can get him back.
I could get it back, yeah.
You got a sim rig right there.
We got to put it to the test.
Got to start, putting some more laps in. This next question is coming from Twitter from Brian. When you're at the beach, do you boogie board? Do you surf? Stand up paddleboard? Do you do any of the fun, wave activities?
No.
No? They're so fun.
They are, but I have two little girls, and you got to keep their head above water as much as possible. We're building sand castles. We're wiping sand out of people's eyes. We're putting on sunscreen. We're trying to get a snack in there every once in a while so they're eating, because they'll go all day and not eat if you let them. We're using the bathroom.
Sounds like a blast.
That. Yeah, we're doing all kinds of challenging activities to keep the girls happy. And I take, I take the cooler out there and sit down under the umbrella and listen to the radio. I listen to regular radio.
That's the vintage way to do the beach, I feel like.
I like that.
That's right.
Something feels right.
I'll sit around and listen to Spotify and playlists and Apple Music and all that, but every once in a while, man, you got to turn on just a regular radio station, get all your local commercials,
and let that thing just take you where it goes.
Yeah.
What's the station, the genre that you're playing down there?
The station you'll listen to is Chuck FM. We play everything. That's their slogan. We play everything.
Love it.
Yeah, it's good. It's mostly like hits from the 80s, early 90s, all that recognizable pop, pop modern popular music.
With that FM, static twang to it. That's the best part. This next question coming from the YouTube chat. You're just talking about, being a parent at the beach. This is from Brock. Biggest piece of advice for a first-time parent. I think Brock is about to be a parent for the first time.
Well, the diaper genie. You're going to go through a lot of diapers, and so they have this little trash can, and it has these. You need to get a diaper genie for each changing station. So if you got a changing station in the kids' room, and then another one at another space in the house, or maybe you just have one changing station, that's fine. But get a diaper genie. Your diapers only go in there, and it's easy to keep the smell down. You can get like probably 30, 40 diapers in one bag before you need to take it and empty it. And I don't know, that was just really convenient. Instead of throwing them into the trash can and then having to constantly take out a trash can full of dirty diapers, the diaper genie allows you to get a lot in there. And it's easy to change the bags out, and we are out of the diaper genie because we're out of diapers. And I took the diaper genie and I've set it out on the corner of the street. Nobody's taking it.
That's not a way to meet.
I set a smoker out there one time, an old smoker that I had, and it was gone in seconds.
Dang. But not the diaper genie.
I just wonder why nobody wants that diaper genie. But
that's not a way to meet your new neighbors.
That's a load of crap, man.
Yeah, that's a load of crap.
It's empty. I didn't leave the diapers.
That's why they're opening it up. Oh, God.
I'm texting TJ right now, and he says you have the higher iRacing rating
on the one account that I retired.
Yeah. So I just needed to
don't bother
check
him while he's sleeping.
He's texting me. He wanted to come in with pots and pans and just completely interrupt the show.
I didn't bother him yesterday when he was recording.
You helped him out.
Bumper clear.
Actually,
I set all this stuff up for him.
This guy's just out here sleeping. Ridiculous.
He needs to he better get his rest, because as soon as I'm done with the show, we're going to start pounding beers. All right, it's time for Dirty Modo with Tampa Tim's. Tampa's at the table. We're going to talk a little bit about this past week. So, what is this bet that you made if Austin Dillon beat Truex?
Yeah, I opened my big mouth on the show, and I basically bet with the professor if Austin Dillon beat Truex, because that was the matchup in the Denny Hamlin Bracket Challenge, I'd wear an Austin Dillon fire suit on the show this week. So
fire suit? How are you going to get one?
It's in the works. We're trying. If not a fire suit, we'll get some Austin Dillon gear. We'll get some gaudy gear, and we'll figure it out. But
all right.
We've got some options. But yeah, I'm thrilled, as you can see, to do this.
So you did all right, and so this is an interesting thing that you did during the race, which I don't think a lot of people are. Certainly people that are gambling in NASCAR. But even on regular sports, it's an afterthought or something that actually doesn't even pop into your mind. But you made a live bet on Cindric to win on the final restart.
Yes, we've been doing this.
What gave you the idea to do that?
Honestly, it was between. I already had a bet on Blaney, and it was Blaney, Bell, or Cindric. I felt like, and
when you made the live bet, what was the odds?
Plus 400. And he was the second best. Like Bell was like minus 160, and I was never going to bet that. So I figured, all right, we'll take a little small thing on Cindric, and it worked out. But Blaney was a little bit better of a payout if he won. So, kind of just made up for that, really.
Not a good week for the predictor though. 4 out of 10.
No, Professor only had 4 out of 10. Truex was a big loss. Didn't have Cindric in the top 10, so that was big. Blaney falling out. So there's a couple bad breaks there, but yeah, the streak is over.
What's the predictions for Sonoma? We always have a pretty decent idea on who's going to go to the road courses and be strong.
Yeah, I think Sonoma in particular, I think it's a racetrack of like Chris Buescher, Michael McDowell, Ross Chastain, maybe some drivers that don't have a win. I think they're going to maybe get the job done here. So I'm going to look for them to see what their value is when the lines come out.
All right. You guys will learn all about that on Thursday when Dirty Modo drops on all of our Dirty Mo Media platforms. Thank you, Tampa Tim's.
Thank you.
All right, it's time for the white flag. As I mentioned, the teardown dropping Sunday night with Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi. They reacting to everything they saw this past weekend. Some great conversation around everything going on in the sport. And Actions Detrimental with Denny Hamlin dropped on Monday. He had some very opinionated thoughts about NASCAR and the race this past weekend as well. Door bumper clear. Those guys got rowdy this past Monday as well. You can listen to that. Dropping tomorrow is Speed Street with Connor Daly and Chase Holden. And my Mark Martin interview on the Dale Jr. Download will drop as well on tomorrow's run. And Thursday, DJD Reloaded comes back, and we mentioned it, Dirty Modo as well. Also, round 2 of the Denny Hamlin Bracket Challenge heads to Sonoma. A lot of great prizes for not only the grand prize winner, but 11 other fans. There'll be 11 other additional winners this year. Some pretty cool stuff to be able to give it out. Go to dirtymomedia.com/bracket challenge to follow along. And that's the show. Hope you guys will tune in tomorrow for Mark Martin. We'll see you then.